Mr. Vanam, there's a lot of talk about, and ultimately business is about money, money, money. And for the SMEs, especially now that you could see they're sort of grappling to make sure they make as much as they can, how do we drive the ESG, that's the environmental, social, and governance conversation among them? So even as they begin, for those who are younger, etc., they're not only thinking about money, 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 bottom lines, profits.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that question. Very pertinent question, I must add. And thank you so much for having me in this panel today. And congratulations to Nation Media for hosting this very important event. Now, before I answer, let me narrate 3 stories. Very short stories, so don't be worried on the time. The first story is about the SMEs itself, or in the higher bracket, let me say private sector involvement. We all know, we've been hearing about COP, Conference of Parties. We recently heard Glasgow, and this year is going to be an Africa COP in Egypt. So what happened, we all know that private sector is kind of involved, SMEs are kind of involved in today's COP. But it was COP 15, which was Paris Agreement, as we all know, is when the private sector got involved, or the SMEs had a table in the room where they can express their views, where they can express their concerns, where they can express their issues, and they can also demand what they actually need in terms of their growth and all. Obviously, we all heard the statistics, 90% contribution, 86% contribution, 40% contribution to the GDP. It's all fantastic. They can also thrive innovation. They can foster innovation, the SMEs. They can also address the key issues, and they can also address the policy impediments that are existing here. But they also have a lot of challenges. We've all been discussing the challenges here. Access to finance, they don't have access to good quality trainings, good quality vocational skills, business advisory services, facilities, security is there, but not many people know them. So they're all challenges there. So that's part 1 of the story. Part 2 story was drafted in 2008 when Vision 2030 for Kenya was unveiled, where we put SMEs as an underpinning strategy to achieve the goal of we becoming a middle-income country. So what has happened with that? The SMEs fostered. It propelled the SMEs and the private sector organizations to charter into uncharted territory to kind of aim to the new goals, or they had a vision now. But the focus was on 2 pillars. Pillar number 1 was on profits. Obviously, they have to be sustainable, no harm there. Second was, by the way of earning profits, they also created jobs. Those 2 things are working well, but something called as climate change came in. That's the villain of the second story. Climate change is real. We haven't seen this hot weather in Nairobi for ages. We have removed our coats. Unfortunately, we are wearing it today, but we have removed our coats and we are in normal shirts and trousers kind of a thing. Hopefully, the SME sector doesn't lose out on that business, but it is impacting every sector. The climate change is impacting every sector. If we don't address it well, if we don't, so what that has, how that has impacted the SMEs. The SMEs who were already in deep challenges went deeper into challenges in terms of maneuvering against the climate change kind of thing. So governments, the policymakers, the think tanks, the research organizations, the various institutions who were working in the climate change came up with many systems, many processes, many policies, many guidelines, everything came through. I'll name few that Kenya has pioneered. Our very own CBK has came up with a new guideline which kind of informs the banks, the financial institutions, on the climate risks. AFDB has been giving out the green bonds since 2015. We had our own corporate bond which got listed on the London Stock Exchange, which was a watershed movement for all of us who are working in the climate change sphere. Then we also had KCB, our very own KCB, who got accredited by GCF. Then our NSE itself is also part of the Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative. Now, what does all this mean to you? That's story number 2. Story number 3, very short, is the consumer. Who is buying your products and services? Now, KCIC did a survey with on the environmental side of things. We did a survey on enterprises, or we did a survey on consumers, asking them, are they willing to go an extra mile, or are they willing to go a little deep down into their pocket to shell out more shillings to buy the same product if the company is adhering to sustainable practices? The results were astonishing. That was in 2019 when we did the survey. 67% of the consumers said, we don't mind spending an extra 100 bob, we don't mind spending an extra 2,000 if the company is involved in sustainable businesses. What do we mean by that? I'll come to that. So these are three stories. Now, if you put all these three stories together, what does that mean for SMEs? I'll summarize it in one word: opportunities. Now, that is where ESG kind of plays a huge role in terms of providing these opportunities to SMEs. If the SMEs are able to adapt, which they are very good at, which they are able to incorporate or embed the ESG principles, the environmental social governance principles, within their business models, which will open doors to newer funding opportunities, which will open door to newer technical assistance that they can receive to develop and fine-tune their products and services, and which can propel them to not just being local, but also regional as well as international. So that is a potential that the ESG has. So what is that you as SME needs to do? Three things. A, develop the E&S policy, environmental and social policies for your own organizations, and you need not borrow it from international levels. You need not borrow it from local level. Depending on your need, depending on your requirement, you need to develop a simple E&S policy. But more importantly, number two, implement the E&S policy. It's all right to have a policy and stick it onto your wall, but you need to roll your sleeves and get into the implementation part of E&S. The third, which also in today's context has become extremely critical, is communicate that you are actually following those environmental and social principles and policies. Communication has become very important. Awareness has become very important. We only know that in Kenya, Safaricom or a EABL reports on the sustainability initiatives. Not many companies in Kenya do report on it. Forget it, informal or formal. Not many formal institutions also don't report on sustainability. So SMEs have an opportunity. SMEs have a golden opportunity to unlock these billions of dollars or billions of shillings that is available in the green financing thing if you are able to maneuver around these climate change things and address the critical issue of ESG within your business models. Thank you.
Thank you for that.